स्वस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति।
So, the next verse, because Arjuna's initial question was, what can solve my problem of sorrow? And Lord Krishna started teaching by saying, Ashocha nanga shochastva. You are grieving for something which does not deserve to be grieved for. Okay? Then he talks about the nature of Atma. Okay? So, why you should not be grieving for anything in this world? That is because the relationship between you and world is, you are the truth of the universe and the whole world is mithya, it depends upon I for its existence. If you really understand this, then the very cause of sorrow is taken from the very root cause. It's not just some kind of a psychological coping anymore. It is re-looking at the reality at a very different level. Okay? So that is one thing. Now, the question is, if you correct this fundamental error about what your nature is, does it mean that at the level of mind there will be no emotion called sorrow? Because people mix the two. They think that the minute I understand, if I correct this very fundamental mistake that I make about myself, which is what? That I am not a small individual, but I am awareness which has no boundaries, then they think that the mind will cease to have sorrow. Okay? And that particular thing is something which Lord Krishna says that is not what it means. Okay? So the next verse, it is making it very clear that understanding that big reality means something else than just eliminating the emotion of sorrow from the mind. Right? Because when we say that this knowledge will give bliss, what is the mistake we make? We think that we will be in some state of mind of blissed out, which is going to stay constantly with us, right?
That's our expectation.
That is your expectation. Okay? And this is what Lord Krishna is saying, that is a wrong expectation, right? So that means what he says, how to then deal with sorrow. There is only one way of dealing with emotional sorrow, okay? And that is this way. He says, Tam vidya dukkha sanyoga viyogam yoga sangnitam sanishchayena vyoktavyaha yogo nirvinna chetasa. You will chant after me. Tam vidya dukkha sanyoga viyogam yoga sangnitam sanishchayena yoktavyaha yogo nirvinna chetasa. Okay. So that means understanding this bigger picture about who you are does not really lead to elimination of sorrow at the level of mind. Okay? Here Lord Krishna says dukkha sanyoga viyogam. Okay? The mind, as I said earlier, is bound to feel emotions. Okay? So that means if, let's say, somebody passes away, it will invoke what? Sorrow. That you cannot, when different situations arise, there are different corresponding feelings that are evoked, and there is almost universality about it. Okay? At the time of the wedding, you're supposed to be happy. And everybody is naturally happy. You're not told you have to be happy. Okay? Then some situations make us frustrated or angry, or some people make us sad. Some situations give fear. This is something which is the nature of mind. The mind is programmed in a way that all these range of emotions are felt, right? And there is nothing unhealthy about it, and you can't totally eliminate it. Okay? So therefore, even if you understand this final reality about yourself, does not mean you eliminate the sorrow. Okay? It says dukkha sanyoga viyoga. Dukkha happens. Our main problem with sorrow is not just the emotion of sorrow. What happens is we get totally identified with our sorrow. Okay? There is no distance between I, who is experiencing the sorrow, which is an emotion, and every emotion is passing. Okay? Even if you want to hold on to any emotion, you actually cannot hold on to any emotion. Okay? So therefore, what is the nature of problem is that when that emotion of sorrow comes, I get totally identified with it. Because, and I have no cognitive distance between me, the experience of sorrow, and the sorrow. Okay? And then I get ruffled by the sorrow. Then I try to be what? Sometimes avoid even feeling something which I think is not the right. I call it a negative emotion. Okay? And I try to avoid it. I have a friend who has a very good friend who's a psychologist in the UK, and she said to him, she says, you learn to rest with your emotions. Don't resist your emotions. Okay? At a very young age, we are told not to be, we are always given advice not to be sad, not to cry. Okay? So that means when there is sadness, the only way we have learned to cope with it is just shove it away. Okay? Another friend of mine who is also listening to some tapes of some American psychologist, he said one thing. He said, you are told not to be crying or not to be sad. What you do is, when the situation arises and it gives you sorrow, you kind of shun it and you numb certain centers in your brain, okay, which will what? Experience sorrow, because you block yourself to it. Then the psychologist was saying, if you block that, what is wrong with it? You also block some other centers in the brain which are creating happiness. So that means
you are just numbing yourself.
You are numbing yourself. Okay? So here we are not talking about numbing ourselves and further calling ourselves, right, as people. Exactly. This is the biggest problem, because we think that the wise person, which is portrayed by Bhagavad Gita, is what we think is absolutely right. Sthita prajna, we impute
so much of pressure
and
because
so
of that.
much pressure because of that.
How could you be so unhappy? How could you be so ecstatic?
Absolutely.
You take charge
So
of
that
yourself.
means, yeah, and that means you abort this whole natural process of emotions in the name of spirituality. Okay? And then you judge yourself, because nobody can avoid those range of emotions. Then within yourself you say, no, I'm not progressing spiritually because I'm still having these emotions. There is so much problem in conceptually misunderstanding what Gita says. Okay? So this whole ideal of Sthita Prajna.
So, question which is, what is the ultimate aim?
The
To get rid of emotions
aim,
or
no,
to
this is
cope
what
with
I'm saying,
emotions?
to cope with emotions.
But
Exactly.
now, for instance, a Buddha,
Yeah.
would he be also have emotions? I don't know.
Yeah. In fact, a wise person will have emotion. In fact, all your good behaviors, like for example, empathy, compassion. It's all based on
Is also
emotion.
emotion.
It's all based on emotion. You feel
you
sad
feel for the other.
exactly. So we are not talking about eliminating emotions or numbing ourselves or becoming robotic. Please understand, spirituality is not about numbing our centers in a way that we don't feel anything. This is psychologically unhealthy. It is all about managing our emotions. Okay? And first of all, what happens is we are caught in this paradigm. Okay? And within this paradigm, everything which is a small perspective seems like a very big perspective. So what does spirituality do? It takes me from this vision to this vision. And from this, I can see a lot more, right? Lot more objectivity, but it doesn't mean that this disappears. This remains, but my perspective changes. Right? When my perspective changes and my perspective includes a lot more things, my capacity to deal with this naturally is changing, improves. Okay? So it automatically does it. It's not like staying here and telling you, oh, you should think positive, you should not have emotions. This is how we use spirituality. Staying within the same paradigm and keeping on telling ourselves, I should not feel this, I should feel this, and I put so much pressure on myself. Okay?
This is a question because, for instance, if I feel happy, what's wrong with me? Why am I feeling so happy?
It's good. Exactly. Yeah. Right? So
that's bad.
That's bad. So that means that you cannot
let yourself
exactly. Right? So therefore, here he says dukkha sanyoga viyoga. Okay? That total identification with sorrow makes us in fact have fear of that sorrow. Once you take out, you welcome sorrow, you welcome fear, the fear will lose its capacity to rule over you. You welcome sadness, that is an emotion and I will feel it and it will go. Then you don't have this whole resistance to reality of your emotions. Okay? Now you can also do one more thing, and first is that even to have that cognitive distance that I am the experiencer of this given emotion, and what I experience is something which is changing constantly and I am independent of it. Okay? What makes the person wise person is not having that emotion, but the person understands the relationship between emotion and I, the observer, which is already free from whatever is the characteristic of observer. This is a reality. Okay? Now, if that emotion is based on certain wrong understanding or wrong expectation that I have, then what do? I correct that understanding. There is some implicit wrong understanding or some resistance to reality that I correct, because the extent to which my thinking is aligned to realities, there is less burden that I am carrying within myself.
So
Distortions. So the more I get rid of the distortions, the more free I am and more willing to accept what is. Okay? So therefore, that means if I have to re-understand something, I re-understand it. Okay? And don't resist the emotion, let the emotion pass. What generally happens is you have one feeling of sadness, then you add your own, through your own logic, lots of other related stories, right? And you base, and then you get totally identified with your picture that you have created, and then you find it impossible to get out of it. There are certain things in this whole picture which are facts, which are external facts, and a lot of it is your own addition. Okay? The minute you start reducing your own addition, any situation you can manage. And you can also experience the feeling, passing feelings of changing feelings is something that you can let it go. You don't have to have this pressure that I should not have this emotion. And this is why, in fact, our scriptures do that job very well. Okay? You have this avatars, in Rama Avatara, when Rama finds out that his brother Lakshmana was, he had fainted, he is crying, right? Or that when Sita was lost, yeah, he was frantically asking the birds and he was asking the trees, have you seen my wife, have you seen my wife, right? So that means it shows that this is supposed to be an avatara. Even that person has feelings and emotions. Right? We are not talking about not having emotions here or having only one type of emotion, which is happiness. This knowledge, it is not about having only one emotion and eliminating all others.
How come spirituality has been twisted to the...
No wonder happiness is a burden.
Yeah,
it's a quest of
happiness,
life.
exactly. People feel that, oh my God, I'm getting happiness, and as a spiritual person, I should stay away. You don't need to stay away from happiness. The whole thing is to make you cheerful, okay, to take away this prashantatma we saw. Naturally cheerful, naturally enthusiastic, naturally interested in life, freeing oneself from all these burdens that we carry within ourselves.
And I think also sometimes everybody's definition of happiness is different. You are happy, but some other people are telling you, no, you have to do this, then you will be happy. So you have to stop explaining to them, I'm fine the way I am.
Exactly. So people have all kinds of agenda that what you should be doing to be happy. So this is what he says, dukkha sanyoga. Sanyoga means you and then viyoga. There is this whole association with this sadness, but now with that cognitive understanding of what is your relationship with the emotion, there is a natural freedom which is coming without resisting that emotion. And that is really true for any other emotion. Even to label emotions as some things which are positive and something which is negative itself is highly destructive. Because the minute I label the emotion negative, right, fear or anger or whatever, what happens? I in fact have fear of even experiencing that emotion because it's negative. And good human beings don't have these negative emotions.
But is it so that the emotions come to us before our mind registers the situation?
Okay.
Are we very...
Now this is a very, very good question. Emotions, right? When you engage in the world, you see certain things and emotions will arise. Right? It doesn't take your permission to arise.
Correct, correct.
So that means there is some external trigger which will lead to that given emotion. Right? Now, there are two ways in which there is a very nice Upanishad, which is Kathopanishad, and it tells you that this body is like a chariot. Okay? And you come to this universe with a chariot, which is your body, and which has 5 horses, which is 5 senses, and it has reins, which is the mind, and then there is a charioteer, which is what we call buddhi. Okay? So this is the analogy. This is the analogy which is used. So now it says that if the charioteer, the buddhi, has no idea as to what is the goal of life, where do I want to go, why have I come, and what is it that I want to achieve in this life, what will happen?
You don't know where to go.
Exactly, right? So that means what will rule your life are the horses. What are the horses?
The 5 senses.
The senses.
Okay? Whatever is fascinating, at that point,
One horse
you
wants to
go
go this
there,
way, the
one
other
wants to go that way, they see water, they see something else, they go here. And the charioteer, who is supposed to, what? Guide this, he has no idea where to go. So everything is fine. Okay? Then it says that now, let's say the horses are just going here and there. What is your first point of control? The rein, right? So that means the mind is the first point of control. Okay? So that means the senses are what? The senses are reporting, and that will create a certain sensation, and that sensation, if you don't identify with it, how long will it stay? It will pass. Okay? So that is your first thing. Don't resist emotions. If you don't resist emotions and if you don't build on them, it will pass. It cannot but pass. This is a very, very non-violent way of dealing with emotions.
So if you're angry, and
Yeah,
you're angry, fine.
that's all. And like how Surya was saying many times, that when in fact you can tell somebody that I'm angry right now, I'm not in a proper disposition to talk. I'll talk to you when I have a little bit more gathered, within myself. This is lovely way, I think psychologists talk about it, right? So that means you're acknowledging your emotion, you're not afraid of stating it, but you're not victimizing others based on your emotion. And it will pass. Okay? So therefore, this your scare of your own emotion is the biggest problem. Okay? So therefore, this is what we call the first intervention. Okay? Now let's say you're not able to stop at that level. And let's say you've already built up a story. Because it almost happens so fast, okay, that you get into given chain of thinking and you just blow the whole thing up in seconds without even you realizing it. Right? So that means you have become identified. You've not just treated this as a passing thought and let it go. You built it up and you've created a huge big picture. Even at that level, there is scope for you to intervene. Okay? When even if it is built up and it is very strong, you need not act which is based on it. This is your sarathi, buddhi. I can say, I'm feeling it, it has totally taken over me, I'm overwhelmed by it, but I'm not going to victimize somebody else. That is another level of intervention that you have. And you have to, for that, you need a strong sarathi. Sarathi is your intellect.
We did it in the afternoon. Dealt with this situation.
Oh really? Okay. So that means that is a second level of intervention which is at the level of your buddhi. First is the mind. Let the mind. Nature of mind is to move, it will move. That is one way of dealing with it. Secondly is, even if I built up, I don't victimize others. I don't act based on that emotion. Then, at the level of buddhi, what I can also do is try to find out a certain distortion in understanding that I have and very calmly correct that distorted understanding. Realign my understanding in keeping with what is. The minute I do that, then what happens? Root cause of this wrong understanding is addressed. And then it will reduce. It passes, right? It will reduce. The minute I address and I correct certain assumptions which are in that feeling and correct them in keeping with what is, the intensity of emotions over a period of time will reduce. Okay? So this is the only way to deal with your emotions. Because in the dukkha, sanyoga, viyoga, 3 levels. One is at the level of senses itself. If you can keep away from certain things which are not pleasant, you can do that. Sometimes the senses cannot be totally, withdrawn from different things. Then the second level of intervention is mind, let it pass. The third is buddhi. All these 3 interventions you have with you. Use them.
So this can be a pattern also, because I remember tearing up a diary, where I had written, and I saw that every interval the same story was repeated. So that is, which was saying that anger, the same situation, same drama.
Same triggers, same
drama. That is a story which
that you create, and then she continues.
So I could see at the end of the book that it was obviously a story. Every time it can't be the same.
Yeah.
Tell me, in Buddhism they say it's anything which is repetitive, it's a pattern.
Yeah.
It's your karma from past. I don't know, that brings
See, the
an
thing is
explanation on
that,
that.
Radhika, some things, certain mindset that you have, certain disposition that you have, there is something to do with karma. But you can't just go by karma, because otherwise you set yourself up in a very self-defeating situation, right?
No, I'm not saying accept it as.
So that is exactly.
But
so that means that yeah, you're right, absolutely. In fact, everybody's state of mind is, if you define karma as what, series of cause and effect relationship, then you're right, absolutely right. That everybody's what, the psychology that everybody has is governed by series of cause and effect which are unique to every person, and that is, karma means series of cause and effect, the chain of cause and effect, and that is true. But the whole point is that you can create your new causes, okay, which will then change the future effects. Okay. So therefore, this is what he says, and sa nishchayena yoktavyaha yogo nirvinna chetasaha. And this is something which needs to be pursued. Every emotion, not only sadness but anger, fears, jealousies. Jealousy is also, you can, jealousy is one of the biggest problems. Okay, what happens? Why do we feel jealous of others? Why can't we just be happy with the accomplishments of others?
We feel small
Exactly.
in front of the other.
Absolutely. When I value something that somebody else has, okay, it what makes me feel. If I don't value it, it doesn't make me jealous, right? But if I value that, and if I see somebody else having it, and my either not at all having it or having it in a lesser degree, then what happens? It evokes jealousy in me. Okay? Now, how do I deal with this problem? If I just tell myself, oh, you should not be jealous, that doesn't help, because everybody knows that I should not be jealous, but it happens. Okay? Now, when it happens, generally what do? We act based on that emotion. So what do we do towards a person that we are jealous?
Negative energy.
Attack.
We attack, or we are angry, or we put the person down.
We are nasty.
We are nasty towards people, towards whom we are jealous, absolutely.
No, bang.
Or we may not be nasty to that person on the face, but we tell somebody, "Kya samajhta hai apne aap?"
Exactly, right? So that means that you, what is the problem? It evokes that little smallness in you, right? And that smallness you cannot stand, because you can't stand to see yourself as small. Then what do? You need to bring the other person down. You need to criticize that other person.
Yes.
To bring that person down, okay? So when you bring that person down,
You feel
you feel
If I can't drive, let me bring him down.
so that means you feel good about yourself by bringing somebody down. Once you understand the dynamics of what you are doing, then you can question yourself. You can say, actually, what am I interested in? Feeling good about myself. That is my real interest. Okay? And what am I interested in? Getting certain qualities that that person has. That is my interest. Okay? Now, by engaging in this feeling of jealousy and making remarks about that other person and bringing that other person down, am I working towards what I want to be, or I'm actually going further away from what I want to be? Because all this energy that I have potentially, which I can use to acquire the skills that I'm interested in, I'm wasting away in what? The whole chain of dissatisfaction, criticism, and
Wasting your energy.
wasting your energy. Okay, so that means I am acting against myself, against my self-interest. Only when you see the fact that by doing certain things out of your emotion of jealousy, you are acting against yourself, you will stop doing it. Because what is of prime importance to you? Your own well-being. The minute you start seeing that by going against a certain value, okay, you are not what? not nurturing yourself, but you are further what?
Damaging yourself.
Damaging yourself. Only then you will correct those emotions.
You're hiding that you're that type of person at that
Exactly.
time.
Right? So this is where somebody just recently told me a story, and this is how human mind works, right? That the God came to some person and asked, what is it, whatever you want, I will give you. Okay? So he says, but I will give you on one condition, that whatever you have, I will give double of that to your neighbor. So if you ask for a car, I'll give two cars to the neighbor, right? And if you ask for a beautiful husband or wife, then I'll give twice as beautiful, right? So he says that, my God, now if my neighbor is going to have twice as much as I do, the person cannot handle it. Okay? So then what did the person ask for? With this mentality, he says, take out one of my eyes.
Oh,
So then
the other guy is
your
both eyes.
eyes will go. This is the amount of distortion with which we work if we compare ourselves. Because if we look at the world, we'll always find people who have more than us. That is impossible not to find people who have more than us. And if our vision is always what? Comparing ourselves with people who have more than us, I'm always going to feel small. And if I'm always going to feel small, what is my coping method? I have to either bring that person down or what? Or I have a constructive way where is to what? Use my energies to bring myself up. Yeah.
Make it inspiration.
Exactly.
And also to realize that you can't be good at everything under the sun.
Exactly. Right?
You decide
So
what
that
you
is
want to
going
be
to
good
be,
at.
and even in the very process of engaging and bettering yourself, from one step to the other, in that there is a pleasure. Because there is a constructive use of energy. Even if you never achieve the level of somebody else, the minute you put yourself on the right track of doing something constructive to achieve what you are looking for, your whole energy is refocused in a much more creative manner than this whole self-defeating manner. And the more you not engage your energies in a constructive manner, your dissatisfaction is going to grow more and more and more, and you are acting against yourself. Only when you understand this, then you will what? You will you will help yourself, and you will free yourself from these emotions.
There's another thing you had mentioned long time back, that even with a very simple living,
Yes.
we are taking more from the universe than contributing back, right?
Yes.
And that leads to a feeling of humility, gratefulness.
Yeah.
Now, if you make that part of your life,
Yeah.
then you're happy for everybody's achievements. Instead of
Yeah.
jealousy, you feel, oh, I'm happy for him.
Yeah.
I'm happy for her.
Exactly.
Because you're always in that mode of, I'm grateful for where I am.
Yes.
Because I am here because the society has contributed to my
Yeah,
being
to
here.
be- Exactly.
So that is also, I think, a fairly
Yeah, there's a
good
very
attitude
strong
to
way to
appreciate
absolutely.
others.
The minute you begin to see that the forces are not inimical to you,
Yeah.
and so much is given to you, and in this world, the world is set up in a way that you will always receive much more than what you will give. That is true. There is this whole deep inside, there is a shift in your psyche of gratitude, psyche of being grateful. Okay.
It also helps accept stuff when things are not working
acceptance.
towards you. You feel, you know, I'm still okay.
Yeah, I'm still okay compared to so many other things. So this is something that it does. All the emotions you have to see that if you act based on those emotions, right, you're damaging your own self. Only when you see that, you will correct it. Right? Either correct it or let it pass without victimizing others. Okay? And any wise person has dealt with emotions in this way. This is why the wise person, after having understood or in the process of understanding this big reality, addresses the emotional life. You can't bypass addressing emotional life, because in your emotional life there is a lot of implicit wrong understanding from which comes your behavior. So the minute you understand this is not going to automatically get corrected. So your effort is what? To this emotional life, you try to what? Again bring relative understanding of what Ishvara, Dharma, Karma, all that you bring in order to realign the psyche with what is. It is not an automatic process. By doing this, this doesn't get automatically done. And this is why people say, oh, I've listened to Vedanta, but I still have. This is a common question people have.
That's what my family tells me.
So now you have an answer.
But if he gives the answer, then again they'll say. I think this.
Then why are you going?
Okay. So now, this whole particular aspect is dealt with. Up to now, we have seen in 6 chapters, the whole focus has been on Tvampada. Tvampada is you. First, Lord Krishna talked about what is the nature of I. Okay? That you are this indestructible, you are Ajaha, Nityaha, Shashvataha, Ayam Purana, Na Anyate Anyamane Sharite. This is your true nature. Okay? Then it says, but this is not something that you can just understand overnight. You need to have a prepared mind, and he talks about Karma Yoga, okay, as a means to prepare yourself. In Karma Yoga, he talks about different aspects. He talks about when you perform an action, how ethics become important, and when you receive the result, to understand the laws of cause and effect, which will put your whole reactions into perspective, and you will have certain composure. Okay? So that is what the Karma Yoga was talking about. Then Lord Krishna also talked about the whole practice of meditation and how it helps you to deal with everything which is deep inside your psyche. Okay? So therefore, why meditation? What does it do for you? How it is important for you to reprogram and reorient yourself so that this teaching is well assimilated and your behaviors come out of that. Okay? Then Lord Krishna was also talking about different emotions and how to deal with those emotions. What does mastery over those emotions mean? Okay? So these are range of things that the first 6 chapters talk about. One, the first thing is self-discovery, that I am much more than what I thought I was, and then self-growth, which is helping yourself to nourish your psyche and correct the distortions so that you can live this vision that you understand. Okay? Now, there is a shift in topic. From 7 till 12, the topic changes to Tatpada. Tatpada is Ishvara. Okay? So therefore, the next few questions, when I talk about all these things, I have still not answered one more question. I have not answered one more question. How did this world come about? I did not create my body. I did not create the stars and the sun and the moon, and I did not create the galaxies, and I didn't create the trees, and I didn't create even my own body. I didn't, nobody came and asked me for my permission that this is the height, this is the, everybody wants it to be different than what it is.
Yeah.
Right? Poor self-image we suffer from, and a lot of our complexes are centered in our body. So that means we can't even accept our body. So if nobody came and consulted us and what is the complexion you should have, nobody the height that we have, right? The features that we have, we came with it and we are what? Stuck with it, and we have complexes around it. Okay? So therefore, the question still remains that yes, okay, I am awareness which does not, it is not confined to the body, it is much bigger, and I am somehow that awareness does have relationship with one given body and mind, and how I need to prepare that given body, mind and sense complex to align it with certain realities. All this is fine, but who created the whole thing? that question still remains, and the next 6 chapters answer the question. Okay? So the first thing that he says, now in chapter 7, he says, Nane teham savijnanam idam vakshamya sheshataha yajnatva neha bhuyonyata natavyamavashishyate. So here you say, you chant after me, Nane teham savijnanam
Jnanam teham savijnanam
idam vakshamya sheshataha yajnatva neha bhuyonyata natavyamavashishyate. Okay, so what is he is saying? That now I'm going to tell you about the topic, knowing which na anyat natavyam avashishyate. Nothing else then remains to be known. Okay? Because if you reduce Vedanta into only inquiry into Tvapada, it is not complete. Okay? A lot of people in this new age who are taking some aspects of Vedanta. In California there is this whole new age thinking. They come up with lots of self-help books and everything. They just focus on self. Okay, that Tatpada, how you're that conscious being, and how that conscious being has no limits, and they touch on certain aspects of Vedanta. Okay, when people who have studied those new age authors and they listen to Vedanta, they think that, oh, it's all saying the same thing. Okay? Now, 2 things these new age people are not addressing. One is they talk about this I as though without any boundaries. This is a very kind of a new age thinking.
Are you
right?
talking about Ecotel?
Many,
Power of
yeah,
now and
many. There are lots of authors. Okay, in that, okay, there is no one thing they eliminate is this whole human growth. Okay, because if I am already this, then what? I don't need to address any of my emotions. Here what it says is you cannot bypass your emotional life. Okay? So what Vedanta shows you is how to address your emotional life. You can't just say, oh, I am that reality which is much bigger, and ignore your emotions. Okay? That is one thing. The second thing these new age authors eliminate is inquiring into the cause of the universe. Because cause of the universe is something which is very kind of, people have a lot of resistance.
Big Bang Theory.
So then they want to not get into some areas which are potentially controversial or dangerous, or they evoke certain kind of responses on the part of the person. So they very cleverly choose not to exactly omit. I met one of the new age teachers, very famous teacher, and he had come to Rishikesh. So he was giving a talk just across in that other place. So we had gone to meet him, and he was a very nice person, right? So I told him that you are talking about that self which has no limits and all, and that's fine. But how do you then account for this world? And he says, no, but if self is everything, I'm not interested in the world. So that means he doesn't even want to acknowledge, or even want to
If you
dwell.
don't acknowledge, how do you deal?
Exactly. Right?
So can we say it a slightly different way?
Yes.
One is I have to know myself.
Yes.
Self.
Yes.
And I have to also know the outside.
Yeah.
Because the self and outside are interacting.
Exactly. Right? If excellent. Absolutely. If you want to know yourself, you necessarily have to know about the universe, because I'm interacting with the universe. I need to know what is my relationship with the universe, because
And what
that's
is the
part of
universe?
and what is the universe. Okay? And I also need to know how did this universe and this individual come about, and what is my relationship with that. I need to know. It is part of the inquiry about I.
Also, ego will increase in the new thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
and what happens is they continue to think that I am the mind, and then they start thinking that is limitless. That is the biggest danger, because where there is limitation, if I impute limitlessness, I am creating such a huge misunderstanding. What we are talking is that awareness which is independent of all minds, that is free from any limitation. We are not talking about mind being limitless. Please understand. Okay? So all these.
Come again.
So when we are talking about I that is limitless is not the mind which is limitless. It is the awareness because of which different conditions of the mind are known. That awareness is free from the conditions of the mind. That's what we are saying. And that awareness is not confined to the body.
To me
it
alone.
is it is boundaryless. Okay? So this is what we are talking about. One has to be very careful. The teachers, the job of a teacher of Vedanta is a very, very responsible job. You can't create small misunderstandings can lead to what? Major not understanding things clearly or major projections.
No, I can identify with this, that a teacher, when me as a teacher, if I'm not clear about a particular thing,
Yes.
then I don't want to open that Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
That
You
is
apply.
Still okay, but if you are wrong and then you open the box, that is very dangerous. If you don't keep it quiet, is at least okay.
What do you mean by that exactly?
That means if you have a wrong concept only of something,
no, I mean that if
Yeah.
there is not full clarity,
means
you decide
keeping quiet is
chalo
still
isko jane
okay.
dete.
But if you are, I mean, right now we are learning from her. I mean, really, sometimes you get a connection with a person and you really take it down in your life. If she is not clear and we
Yeah.
end up with something that is more dangerous,
I agree.
because that is not limited to me again. It is to my family, people around me, everywhere. It's very.
In fact, one of my unhappiness with this was I was under the impression that Vedanta is ये अपने आप की बात करते रहते हैं all the time. This is I used to dislike that. What about the
Others,
What about
exactly. What are the others? Exactly. So that means absolutely. So that you can't just eliminate
Ignore
this,
the rest
ignore
of the
that.
world.
Exactly. So this
Not
is
only
where-
no, you are
but
interacting.
interaction.
You want to know. I want to know how to interact.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? So here he says, Gnatavyam avashishyate, knowing which the entire equation will be known, which is what? One important aspect, which is Tatpada, which is the cause of the universe. So the next few verses are talking about the nature of the cause of the universe. The cause of the universe, in Sanskrit, it is called Ishvara. Okay? Ishvara means that Ish Dhatu, that which is an overlordship. Okay? That which has created the universe, the cause of the universe. Okay? Now, the chapter 7, verse 7 and 8, okay, there are very important verses which reveal the nature of Ishvara. Okay. So here he says, Matta parataram nanyata kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvamidam protam sutre manigana iva. So you will Matta parataram nanyata kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvamidam protam sutre manigana iva. So what he says, that there is nothing which is other than me in this universe. And so if there is nothing other than me in this universe, where do I see Ishvara? So he gives an imagery that where do you see Ishvara if Ishvara is everywhere? He gives an imagery of a necklace. Okay? So beads, exactly. There are many different beads and there is one string which is holding all the beads together. Okay? So there Surya has, I don't know if recently anybody has seen Surya's presentation, which is Indra's net, okay? Which is a beautiful presentation he has, that there is this whole Indra's net which starts with what, Surya? Mount Meru, okay? And it spreads and it's everywhere. Okay? So there are all these jewels and there are all these intricate nets which connect the jewels. So then Surya asks people, what stands for these jewels?
Individuals.
Excellent. Right? Some people say that those jewels are individuals. Some others say what?
The beads, I mean.
They're the beads. What else? The jewels could be either human beings or it can be what?
Any object.
Any object, right? So that means you can take any object. You can take many different planets and how they are held together, different atoms and how they are held together, different neurons and how they are held together. That means those objects you can start from the minutest object in the universe, which is what? The atoms or particles and how they are joined together, to the biggest objects in the universe, galaxies and planets, and how they are joined together. Okay? So that means that force which joins everything together from the smallest to the biggest, okay? And at the same time, what?
Keeps them together.
Keeps them all, the smallest to biggest, together also, and join. There is a lateral, vertical and horizontal joining
And
together.
time.
And within time and space framework. Okay? So this is what we call is Ishvara.
Basically the laws of the universe.
The laws of the universe. Right? So that the laws of the universe means it is huge. Okay? When I understand Ishvara as laws of universe, it includes laws of physics, it includes laws of biology, it includes law of what? Everything, chemistry, epistemology, psychology, it includes everything.
Linguistics.
Linguistics, everything.
Physiology,
Physiology, anatomy, medical science, everything, right?
Economics.
So, yeah.
What love is me?
She will feel left out.
No,
Okay.
she is economics. Huh?
Every law, show me one thing in this universe which is not connected through series of laws. Show me one thing. Those laws, right, are all over what they contain so much knowledge. Not only each law connects everything from past, present to future, but that law works in conjunction with all the other laws.
Yes.
Only in one physical body, how many different laws are working? Laws of psychology are working, laws of physics are working, laws of biology are working. They are all coordinated. They are not just separated laws doing their own job. Okay? So that means not only there are laws which are working through periods of time, and the way they operate in my body is also the way they operate in your body, and each law connects with the others. So imagine the intricacy in the creation. This whole universe is nothing but knowledge, putting together, okay, the tiniest atoms in an ingenious way that you have all this variety, and connecting their interactions in a very amazingly precise manner. Okay?
And the same
Once-
particles,
Yes.
the DNA of everyone is different.
Yeah.
So the combinations are so many.
Mind-boggling.
But the starting particles are the same.
Yeah, starting atoms and particles are the same, but the permutations and combinations lead to infinite differences. So this is what we call Sarvajnaha Sarva Shaktiman Ishvara, okay, which is manifesting as all these different laws. Laws are manifestation of one entity. Okay. Now, in one of my classes, somebody asked this question, why can't you take all laws as just separate laws? Why do you need to attribute all of them as
Ishvara.
manifestation of Ishvara?
See, this Western philosophy or whatever, they want to not attribute to Ishvara.
Exactly.
But when we attribute to Ishvara, it's easier for us to handle.
Yeah.
That's like
So,
instant coffee.
now we are going to look at certain.
That's like instant happiness. I mean, if you don't, Ishvara and all doesn't come. You talk only of the self and the mind being.
No, I mean, you
happiness and power.
accept
But
till
it's not in
laws,
the long run.
but you don't want to recognize Ishvara as a force. Or, I mean, that atheist. But I believe it's easier if we fall in line.
Okay, so now let's see logically, let's postulate. Okay, it's very important because when people question you on some basic fundamental concepts, you have to know the answers. Otherwise you think that, oh, I just feel it's easier to think, but there are some logical things that you must know. Okay? So that means when you're talking about many different laws, you're talking about within creation. Right? Within creation, because in time and space are the plurality.
Yes.
Okay? Now, when you are talking about that which was the origin of the universe, what does it mean? Even the time and space has not yet come. Origin of the universe means the one entity from where the time and space hasn't come. All the laws that exist, they exist within time and space. Please understand that.
Yes.
And in time and space, when certain things exist, there is plurality there. True? When I say two things are different, this law is different from this, it is what? This has this characteristic, this has this characteristic, and it exists within time and space. Okay? Now we are talking about the cause of the universe, which has to exist before time and space or after time and space?
Before.
Before time and space. Before time and space, there is something, then can it be many? Logically, no. The definition of creation is that there are, within time and space, there are many. Before the time and space, if there is a cause for time and space, it cannot be many. Logically, it does not hold. Right? Because if it was many, there is already time and space.
This conceptually, no?
But this is what I am saying. Conceptually, if you postulate some other reality, you get into logical flaws, and you have to see that.
So I am just asking you.
Yes.
For instance, you can say that before time and space, this universe was created. Could there be some other universe where time and space is not applicable to something else? We don't know.
But the definition of universe is anything
Everything.
that exists within time and space. That is the definition of universe. Okay? So therefore, what we say is, before time and space, there cannot be plurality. Please understand. Okay? Plurality
The theory
exists.
of physics, what they say
Yes.
is the Big Bang theory.
Yes.
Before time and space it was created. But there is also another logic which says that it will also collapse
Yeah.
into
So-
the black hole.
Yeah.
And then, so this, or whatever you call it, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh.
So that means even a physicist will say, before time and space, you cannot postulate many.
No.
Many means there is already time and space. Then there are only two possibilities. One is there is nothing, or there is one thing. Two possibilities. Okay? From nothing, everything cannot come. That is impossible. Okay? So that means only from one, everything can come. Logically, it is impossible to refute what Vedanta says.
If you take a man
Because Ishvara is not just the laws which are existing within time and place, Ishvara is also the very cause of time and space. Before time and space comes, when I say the creator of the universe, what do I mean? The universe is defined as time, space, object, framework. That is what the definition of anybody's universe means. Time, space and object framework. Whatever exists. Whatever exists is time, space and the objects within time and space.
First of all, I agree with you. I mean, just like Pallavi, I intuitively agree with you.
Yes.
However, if I had to play the devil's advocate, to put myself in the shoes of skeptics,
Yes.
I'll pick up on where Professor Kulkarni was going. So, for instance, by analogy, you could suggest that in nature, what we find is that for every creation, every child, let's say, you need both a mother and a father. There has to be a duality. So, could it not be that at the origin of the universe, there was not a single Ishwar, but there were two entities that through procreation came up with the universe?
Yeah. So you see, the two entities also then imply there is time. Without time and space, there are no two.
The other sort of thing that boggles the mind, of course,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
is that beyond time and space, normal cause and effect, don't hold true,
Yeah.
or our logic cannot go there. So where our
No,
logic
no.
does not go, how can we say there was only one entity that was promulgating everything? It could have been 2, 3, 7, because our logic just doesn't. It's beyond. It transcends our logic. So should it be just something unknowable or? By the way, I agree with you because intuitively I too feel that causal chains do converge. They converge all the way up to the Big Bang, and they must converge into a single point. That it
The
seems
question is
logical
what
and
was there
intuitive.
before the Big Bang?
But I'm just.
So, what we say is, now to answer your question, what we say is there is only one thing, right, before the creation of the universe. Creation of universe means time, space and objects. And whenever you talk about plurality, plurality exists within time and space. Any physicist will tell you that, right? When I say two is what? One is defined in this time and this space, and second one is at this time and this space. This is how you arrive at numbers,
Yes.
right? When I say before,
Yeah, because before the second person, second object is created, there was
because-
only one.
yeah,
So there is time when the second object.
yeah, and
And
also
space.
that object occupies this space, and that other object occupies that space, and that's why I say there are two, because I occupy this space and you occupy that space. Two means it is already within time and space framework, logically.
Yes.
Okay? So before, if I call it a creation of the universe, that means it is creation of time, space itself. Okay? Now in that, there is, logically, either there are two possibilities, there is none or there is one. None is not possible because everything cannot come from nothing.
Yes.
From one thing, everything comes. That is the most possible kind of a explanation. Okay? Now from one, everything comes, and that one, as you said, has two aspects: Sarvajnaha and Sarvashaktiman. So on one we impute the male aspect, and the other one we impute female aspect.
What is
Sarvajnaha
Sarvajnaha?
is all knowledge. Okay, that knowledge, because of which the time and space framework comes, and within time and space all these different laws come, and all the different objects come which govern the interaction between all these different
This
objects.
thing you said about male and female.
So therefore, that Sarvajnaha, that knowledge aspect is what we call male. Okay? The other one is only knowledge. Can it create the creation? No. You need second force, which is what we call power. Sarva Shaktiman. And that Shakti is what Malaik and in that aspect of Ishvara we say female. Okay? So the Maheshwara and the word Shiva and Shakti. Shiva is that aspect which is what? The knowledge, and Shakti is what? The power. It is aspect of one entity which is Ishvara.
So is this
So-
what they call Jnana Shakti and Kriya Shakti?
Exactly. Jnana Shakti and what? The capacity to create, which is called Maya. If you want to know the technical Sanskrit term for that knowledge which has the capacity to manifest in form of the universe, it is called Maya Shakti. Okay? Maya Shakti
The
is
knowledge to create is called Maya.
the knowledge is there, but the capacity, only knowledge. For anything for me to create, not only I must have the knowledge,
But I should know how to do it.
Exactly.
But then
So,
isn't Maya connoting, it's all Maya,
No,
not
this
it's
is
myth.
no. This is why, in fact, people use the word Maya as an illusion, okay, or something which is a magic or which tricks you. In Vedanta Shastra, Maya is a technical term. Maya is a technical term which means that this all knowledge has the capacity to manifest in form of the universe.
Sorry, I wanted to add something.
Yes.
For a moment. There was an article which came 2 weeks back.
Yeah.
So evidently the two physicists who have now suggested there is no Big Bang. So that means the universe has no end, no beginning. And it's called the state of singularity. That kind of scientifically also points out toward what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'll forward you this article. It's a very
Okay.
well written article, and it's a Hindu, it's an Indian name, Saurya Das from University of Lethbridge in Canada. So,
Or if there is no beginning and end, then also there is a problem, right?
yeah, so it
So-
says this state known as singularity poses several problems for scientists because it does not take into account what happened before or after.
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot of stuff, but I thought this is something which you had mentioned. I read this. I want to bring it out. It also,
Singularity-
science also suggests.
It's not new, huh? Singularity, this is how the physicists, even the standard
Yes.
model of physics, Big Bang, they call this point in time, let's say, where in fact something emerged. But what is happening is that at 10 power minus 43 seconds, let's say there is a point zero, 10 power minus 43 seconds after this so-called point zero, which is a singularity. Between zero and that point, the laws of physics and the laws of cause effect, they don't apply. Okay? So we don't know what is there. So our human knowledge cannot go to what is exactly the singularity.
Exactly.
Okay? So it is not new. This is like a
No,
very
but the
common
new thing is that they're suggesting the Big Bang didn't happen. So there's no beginning,
So
there's no
that
end.
also
That's the new
there
part,
has
which
been
is.
many
There have been
debates.
both these theories.
That's true. There are many debates. You are right.
Anyway, this is something new which
But
came up 2 weeks back.
Let's
So.
first understand, because scientists themselves don't know
They
much.
don't know. There are
Let's
many
see what
debates.
Vedanta says, because it cannot be contradicted by logic.
Scientists don't know, we also don't
We
know.
also, yeah, exactly.
If scientists don't know, what do we do?
Yeah, she's right, scientist.
But they claim they know.
But exactly.
No scientist ever says that.
But what we say does not contradict logic. So let's hear
Yeah.
what Vedanta says, right?
Yeah.
What Vedanta says is the fact that before the universe there is this knowledge, the knowledge which was in unmanifest form, right? Which then becomes manifest as the universe. Okay? And in order for the whole universe to become manifest, not only you need the knowledge, but you also need the power to manifest. Okay? So that knowledge, Sarvajnaha, is what you call male aspect, and Sarva Shakti is what we call the female
Or
aspect.
the
But
Chinese
of
call
the,
it yin and yang.
yeah, exactly.
Purusha
One
and Prakriti
entity,
is-
Yeah,
two
Purush Prakriti
aspects.
is the same.
Purusha and Prakriti. Okay? So this is what we mean by Maya. Maya is the capacity to project. Okay? Now that Maya Shakti has two aspects. I will just finish because this is important, and then we will take on from here next time. Okay? There are two capacities which are within Maya Shakti. One is what we call Vikshepa Shakti, and second is Avarana Shakti.
And
Avarana Shakti. Okay? So that means Vikshepa means from one potential thing you project this whole universe. That is what we call this so-called Big Bang theory. Okay? All knowledge which was there in a potential form now created everything. And therefore, when I look into anything, right, all the laws are what? Manifestation of that knowledge. It is not a belief. Okay? Already the eyes are put together and there is an amazing amount of knowledge there. Okay? We go to medical school for 8 years and we say that human body is too difficult to comprehend. Let me just focus on my one organ which is eyes. And we do so much research and we say even eye is too much, let me focus on one retina. And even that retina, then I still don't know everything. But the fact is, the eye is already made and that amazing amount of knowledge is already used for it to be what it is. So therefore, what Vedanta says, when I observe the universe, I find nothing but knowledge. As if you say that it's nothing but atoms and particles, but
How do you put them together?
How do you put them together so that one time it appears as the mountain, next time it appears as the river, third time it appears as trees, fourth time it appears as animal, fifth time it appears as reptile, birds. How? There is already that knowledge. And what we human beings, we don't create any knowledge. What do?
Discover.
We only discover how things are already put together. So, nobody needs a proof. It is something when Vedanta shows, I find that this whole creation is nothing but knowledge. All highly sophisticated knowledge which has put together this universe. When I see that knowledge from the standpoint of how the galaxies work, I give it a name called physics. When I access that knowledge in terms of how the plants work, I call it botany. When I study that knowledge in terms of how my physical body works, I call it medical sciences. It is all just pursuit of knowledge which is already put together the universe.
And you are just discovering.
And you are just discovering and you are taking out your veils of ignorance.
That's how you liberate. This is knowledge is liberating.
Knowledge is liberating. Anywhere you access, in fact, find me where there is no knowledge.
In fact, here it is happening right now, each of us. In our own way, we are liberating ourselves.
So,
Taking out from one place and putting it.
right?
No, that's not possible otherwise.
And that knowledge also has power to what? Give manifestation as bodies, human bodies, all the other bodies. It has all these power to create the whole universe. So knowledge and power is something you don't have to believe in. When you examine the universe, all you find is manifestation of that knowledge and power. Try to contradict this. Try to find in this universe something which is other than knowledge and power. Because if you look at quantum physics, this whole idea of tangible universe will disappear. After atoms and particles, it just becomes concepts. There are no tangible objects in the universe. Okay? So how from these concepts, these tiniest particles came and how they get arranged and what are the different laws which puts them together, which makes each object what it is and what governs an interaction, entire thing is nothing but knowledge and power. And this is what is Ishvara. This is where Lord Krishna says that this whole network which makes everything what is me. That knowledge and Shakti is me. Sarvajnaha Sarvashaktiman Ishvara.
Kids are waiting for you.
So this is the only way to understand Ishvara, because any other way of understanding Ishvara will lead to lots of problems. Okay. Now we will see, if you look at Ishvara in any other way, what are the problems that you will get into?
I'm sorry, but this is something I had learned long ago. Maybe I need to unlearn it. But Sarv Shakti is also does also create problems. The problem of an omnipotent God creates paradoxes with free will. You know, which we can maybe get into next time. The paradox is that God has tied his hands and said that you have free will now, I will not intervene. I know I can intervene, but it is a lower level of omnipotence. So, you know, Sarv Shaktiman is also a very problematic concept.
Okay, so Sarva Shaktiman, as we said, the capacity to create has two different aspects. One is Vikshepa and the second is Avarana. This is how the universe is. Okay, how do I understand? I'll just answer your question, then we can take it on next time, right? Now, how do I understand the capacity to project and veil at the same time? How do I understand? I have one thing which explains it all, which is my own dream.
My own
Dream. In my dream, every night, what do? With my little this, I project the whole universe. I project time, space, and within time, space, the entire universe. Okay? But while I am in the dream, do I know that the whole thing is me? No. I just identify with one character in the dream, and I interact with the dream world, and I get all the experiences of happiness, sadness and whatever. Okay. Now that means what? Not only I have a capacity to project the dream world, but while dream world is going on, there is a veil which makes me not see the fact that all that is here is one. Right? So this is where, just as in dream it is the case, it is also in waking. Okay? But in waking, the biggest thing is I can remove this veil of ignorance. I can inquire into the nature of reality and I can figure it out. So there is a veil, but also I have been given the capacity to lift the veil. When you are born ignorant of the world as well as yourself. You keep on removing the ignorance about the world through all these different disciplines of knowledge. You're constantly removing your veil, okay? But the nature of I remains, the ignorance remains intact. Until one day you question what is my assumption about me, which is that I am this limited individual, is that true? And Vedanta helps you to what? Remove that veil of ignorance about I. And in that I is what? Also the veil about Ishvara and the universe. So this is a method that is available to us to remove ignorance about these three things. So that is.
There are many questions on this, but next time.
Many ways.
Because these questions are difficult.
These questions are difficult, but try to think and you will see.
I know what you're saying and I
Yeah.
understand.
But you have to see that how even come up with an argument which will logically hold, and you will be surprised. Even the physicist cannot come up with an argument.
No.
And that's why they are in awe of Vedanta. Because they see that this is the only possible way of looking at it. Okay? Let's to that.
Okay.
Thank you.
We all have, as Malay says, maybe we have to unlearn. We all have learned something earlier. And right now, there is a kind of conflict. I want to believe that and over and done with. I don't want to get into this.
Bhagwan ne sab kiya, that is something that we do, but what is the nature of that Bhagwan, that we don't have clarity about.
I know, I understand.
So,
But
here, what Vedanta shows you is what is the nature of that Ishvara.
So
Is
you are
it
saying the
some
next
entity?
6 chapters are dealing
Now
with this?
next, yeah, the whole topic.
So we are
is
asking too many
Ishvara.
questions in advance.
Yeah. So just listen to what Gita has to say
And then
about the
we-
nature of Ishvara, because it is a lot of things to be understood, right? Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.